Welcome, boils and ghouls, to the Cryptique Podcast. My name's Kenny, and I'm here with my good friend Godden, and together, we're here to watch and review every horrific, often hilarious episode of the legendary HBO anthology series, Tales from the Crypt. Here we are, Godden and Kenny in the house, ready to watch and review another episode. Godden, we're on episode 37.
Episode 37, wow.
Yeah, I'm just letting that sink in for a little bit. We've been doing this for a while. That means we've been doing this for 37 weeks, which I guess isn't that fantastic of a milestone of a number. I guess it would be better to like point that out when we hit like, I don't know, 25 or 50 or 100. I don't know why I'm pointing it out at 37 other than the fact that I just happened to look up and see 37 and realize, oh crap, 37. Here we are.
Season 3, yeah. Episode 11 from 37. Yep.
Here we are. So today we're talking about season 3, episode 11, Split Second. And it came out August 7th, 1991. And it comes to us from Shock Suspense Stories. So this is the first episode of August. Godden, our local horror historian. Anything noteworthy happened in the month of August back in 1991?
I did see that Hot Shots. Hot Shots was on there. It's a comedy.
The first Hot Shots. I like that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was around the time when it came out, but not during this. Not on this day, fortunately. So
yeah, I like Hot Shots a lot. That was a good one. I like spoofs in like the 80s and early 90s spoofs. I thought were really good. I'm not a big fan of spoofs nowadays. I feel like they kind of missed the mark. But back in the day, I loved a good spoof movie.
So you didn't like the scary movie spoofs, like those kind of spoofs?
They had a few good laughs in them, a few good scenes, but they were too few and far between to really enjoy the movies as a whole. Like bits and pieces throughout the franchise, I can really get with, but I struggle to just sit through them, you know? All right, so let's get on to talking about what we're here to talk about, which is Tales from the Crypt. So before we do, though, I want to make sure to go out there and say we are not experts. We are not professionals. I do very little research before I actually talk about these episodes. Godden, I don't know how much research you do. The point is, if there's something out there that we are supposed to know, we might not know it, which brings me to my next point. We need you. We need viewer support and comments to help us get through our being naive. So if I don't know something, or if we don't know something, feel free to comment. Let us know. I love reading through the comments and getting all those little fun facts that you guys have out there. We have such a great audience, Godden. We really do. I was not expecting this outpour of support from people and just giving us little tidbits about episodes and them giving us their ratings, and it just thank you everybody who's commented so far. I just wanted to get that out of the way. We love you. Keep coming and keep sharing your thoughts. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, please do.
And spoiler warning, we are going to go into spoilers on this episode. So if you don't want to be spoiled, make sure you click out of here, go watch the episode somehow, and then come back and listen to us go on about it. And with all of that out of the way, let us get into this episode by first reading the ancient texts inked in human blood on human flesh. The synopsis on the back of the DVD box set here, which is, oh gosh, so many episodes, I'm having a hard time finding it. Split Second. Timber! A group of lumberjacks have a way of cutting their cruel boss and his predatory wife down to size. That's actually not that bad. That's not that bad.
How do you like it?
I did cook up one of my own, though. I have it here. It goes a little something like this. A small town bartender, Liz, agrees to marry Steve, a seemingly kind and well-meaning lumberjack, after he steps in to protect her from harassment by another man. Once they're married, however, Steve's true colors begin to show. He's hot-tempered, jealous, and obsessively possessive of his new bride, so much so that he won't even let other men look at her. Lonely and desperate for affection, Liz defies her new husband's demands and sets out to seduce the handsome new lumberjack in town. This is an affair that is destined to be cut brutally short. That last line was the one I was looking forward to the whole time. That's the best line I wrote right there.
I see. Saved it for the... Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
All right. And general thoughts of this episode before we get into it, without giving too much away. Godden, what are your general feelings about this episode?
I have a good amount to say, and I'm excited to share them, with everyone. So that's what I have to say.
Oh, okay. You're keeping it tight-lipped. I'm going to go out and say it. I did like this episode. It was a lot of fun. I do think it was more or less carried by one performance. Every time they were on screen, I wanted to get more of them. They were so good. Yeah, I will say that much. So the Crypt Keeper intro, the Crypt Keeper is actually sharpening an axe blade on a grinder. And he says, sometimes life can be such a grind. Know what I mean? That's why I like to get out every now and then and swing a little. And he throws the axe and you hear some guy off camera scream. And he says, so much for his family tree. So I think he might have hit him in the family jewels, I think is what happened there. I don't know.
See.
Or it could have been his leg. Who knows? He says, tonight's tale concerns a young woman who's about to do a little swinging of her own. She wants to prove that a good man is hard to find, but easy to get rid of. I think you'll like this little chopping spree I call Split Second. And that brings us to the opening panel. And this is an interesting one. We're out in the woods, okay, and there's a man beating another man with an axe, and then standing watching with her legs very wide open is a woman in basically underwear. She's wearing basically underwear. They're shorts, but they're short shorts, and you can see all the way up to her cheeks, if you know what I mean. So, she is displaying that she definitely has legs all the way up to her butt while these two men are fighting what appears to be to the death. What do you think about this opening panel?
I like it. It says a lot about this episode as well. The way she's standing there, her arms are on her hips, like she's some sort of form of authority. I'm not I can't really picture her saying hey, stop that and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It'd be more horrified if she wanted to. But I do like the aggressiveness and the violence that it's showing as well. Maybe a slight spoiler warning. Maybe I would like this to have taken place in the woods, but I also liked where it was, initially at as well in the episode. So I don't mind that difference, but I do like the panel.
Yeah, there are a few differences in the panel, and that's typical. Sometimes I'll embellish certain things on the panel that aren't in the episode. This one in particular, I also noticed that the way she's appears to be watching, she's almost like judging or kind of looking on in support of what's going on here. Like this is kind of what she wants. And in reality, in the episode, it's not quite what she wants. So yeah, there's a little bit of I guess the old switcho changeo in that aspect of it. So that is a little different, but that's okay. I still like the panel too. It's good. It's violent. It's aggressive. It's in the middle of the woods, right? It's definitely already a scary place, and then being beat by another man with an axe, with a woman just looking on. All right. So the opening scene here is we're in a bar, and oh, by the way, when the shot opens up, there's a couple of chainsaws in the in the rafters as decorations. And let me just say it right now, there's a lot of chainsaws in this episode. I think while we were watching it together, we noticed almost every single transition, there was at some point a chainsaw somewhere or a chainsaw being used in some way. So yeah, a lot of, I don't want to go out and say it flat out, but a lot of foreshadowing. So if you're watching this episode not knowing the twist, you at some point are going to realize, oh, there's probably a chainsaw somewhere in the twist. So we're in this bar, and Liz, our main character here, is kind of waiting tables. And then we get a voiceover from Liz, and she tells us basically in this voiceover that she's stuck in this small town. She's been waiting tables, trying to earn enough money to get a bus ticket out, but she's not earning enough money. She's not making enough tips, and she's kind of stuck in this situation. And I think at this point in the episode, I really had a distinct feeling of, I like this episode. I like our main character. I like the situation. I like the voiceover. I like the intimacy we have with our main character. We haven't had something like that in a very long time. Mm-hmm. Remember episode 1, The Man Who Was Death, the main character would just talk right to the camera. And then same thing with Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone. He was talking right to the camera. I'm trying to think, are there other episodes since then that have the main character in some way talking directly to the audience? Has that happened since?
Not particularly, but I do want to bring up that one episode where it's like his guilty conscience screaming at him, and he thought everyone can hear his thoughts. I want to say that's kind of up there, but it's not direct like the ones you've provided, because those are way better. Yeah.
In that one, that was what was the name of that one? I can't remember what the name of that one was, but that was that was, he was talking to the main character. The main character was basically talking to himself. It wasn't necessarily talking directly to us. So I think this might be the first time since those first few episodes where we have a main character talking directly to us. And realizing how much I enjoyed it coming from her makes me think, I think they should do this more often, because like I said, that intimacy, that relatability it gives you to the main character is so, I like it. It's almost like a feeling of comfort. Like you're like, okay, this is my main character. Let's go. Let's do it. So while she's waiting tables, she gets approached by one of the men there at the bar. And he basically comes up to her and says, what do you say we go out to my truck? I got some sheepskins. That was I don't know why he just didn't say I have some condoms. I think they wanted to really imply that this is like a really backwoods kind of a character. And right, a civilized man would have condoms, but this redneck dude would just have some sheepskins, right? Like I can't imagine any other reason they would say it that way.
It's more natural, it's more environmentally friendly, so.
I guess so. I guess this is a very forward band. Anyway, so he says, I got some sheepskins, and basically let's go out to my truck. Very, very romantic way to come onto a woman. I got some sheepskins in my truck. Come on back and let's go for it. She basically says, look, we got close once. Basically, we got friendly once. Let's not make it a thing. So I think she had a fling with this dude. She's over it, and he wants some more. So he insists. And he even says, I bet you if I got you drunk, you'd be willing to go out. Come on, you got 10 minutes, right? You have a 10-minute break. That's more than enough time for me. So this dude is like, he just wants a real quickie in the truck. Yeah. He wants a real quickie in the least romantic way. And that's really what he wants from her. But already in this intro, in this very beginning, you already get set up with, I like, because in the episode, it turns out she is kind of like a whore, right? She's like a floozy. She's kind of out sleeping around. That's her reputation. And in this opening scene, I think you can kind of see that from her. Look, we got friendly once. We're done, right? She slept around. She basically had him, and now she's over him.
Yeah, I would like to add that you forgot to mention his name, because when he was first introduced by Liz, you thought she was just kind of making an insult or comment, but when I watched it, I was like, his name is Banjo? Like that's his name? What? It is really backwoods, like you mentioned.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because when she called him Banjo, I thought she was just calling him Banjo, like, hey, you redneck, basically. But you point out, no, that's his name. Like, his name's Banjo.
I'm pretty sure it's his name, yeah. And yeah, I do enjoy that. There was like some conflicting past that kind of like made it seem like, oh, he's gonna like assault her in any way or get close, but I'm glad like that's when we got introduced to our next character, honestly, because that he had a grand entrance for me when he came in. Yeah.
So Banjo is really pressing her. He's really trying to get to sleep with her again. He's basically flat out sexually harassing her. And that's when we get introduced to Steve. He approaches, he basically holds up Banjo at gunpoint and says, leave her alone. I think at one point Banjo pulls out a knife and he just kind of hits the knife away and just basically tells him to, get out of here. So, but while this is all going on though, Liz is watching and she's like in awe. She's really admiring being rescued in this way. She even says, I enjoyed being fought over. I've spent more time being offended rather than defended. So she likes this man coming to rescue her. See, so at this point, I think she's, more or less turned on by Steve. We learn through one of her voiceovers that basically he bought her a couple drinks, have a little slow dance, and he asked her already to marry him. He says that he's got some money, he'll be able to take care of her, and she likes that, right? But what is really important to her is he never brought up the L word. And she says the L word happens to also start another word, lie. So I don't know if she even believes in love or even expects love in a relationship, because she equates that with being a lie. So yeah, this also continues to speak to her character of just maybe sleeping around, having all kinds of men, but never really having that feeling of love for them. Or maybe she's told so often that men love her, right? And then it turns out to not work out. So, still, it's kind of ambiguous as to what's going on with her. I guess that's not really the point, but the fact that you're on this journey with this morally ambiguous character, I did enjoy it. So far, I love the setup. I love the premise.
Yeah, as did I. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and so far, there's enough like mystery around the episode to keep me interested, right? Like, what's going on? What's up with this guy? What's up with this marriage? What's up with everything here? The small town. Like, there's a lot going on here to really savor. To you just don't know where it's going yet. So it's interesting.
Right.
So this next scene, right? They've been married, and it's the morning time, and it appears to be right after they just made love, right? He's getting ready for work. He's getting ready to leave, and she's in bed. She's in her little nightgown. She's smoking a cigarette, and she says, Steve had money, all right. This is again through another voiceover. He's got a big house in the middle of a lumber camp, and he made love like a mountain man, which I kind of liked. So I think they're, kind of on cloud nine right now after this marriage. And it's a little unclear as far as how long they've been married so far. Is this the next day?
Yeah, realistically, I want to say, yeah, it's either the next day or just within the week. Yeah.
It's not like months down the road. This is like really soon after their marriage.
No. Yeah.
So this next scene is where we finally venture off and kind of see what Steve is like. So we go to his work camp. Basically, he's a lumberjack, by the way. So I think he's like the boss. He's the boss, or he's the owner of this lumber camp place.
Both.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say both.
Okay. So all these men work for him, and we get introduced to all of these workers first. So I want to call them co-workers, but they're not really co-workers because they're his employees.
Employees, right? Yeah.
They're all kind of, hanging out, getting ready to work. And they're also kind of gossiping about Steve. Hey, did you hear Steve got married? He got hitched. And they're kind of going back and forth about this. Oh, no, Steve would never get married. And one of them says, oh, yeah, he got married. He got married to that bartender, Liz. And they go, oh, I didn't know Mr. Dixon liked sloppy seconds. So again, reinforcing that stereotype that she kind of sleeps around.
Right.
So that's when Steve comes in, and basically he comes in and he makes an announcement. Hey, everybody, we have to move to the other side of the mountain. We have to move this whole camp to the other side of the mountain. And all of the workers complain. They say, there ain't no trees over there. He says, I know. It's the environmentalist. They're trying to protect some kind of moth or something. So at this point in the story, the first time you watch this, you think, okay, yeah, that makes that tracks, right? Environmentalists, moths, this makes perfect sense to me.
Why not?
Right.
Yeah.
But then upon the rewatch, when you learn about Steve's true nature, you think, okay, is this hinting at, because he doesn't want anybody looking at his wife. We're going to learn that in just a bit. So when you watch this the second time, when I watched this the second time, I was thinking, okay, is this real about the environmentalists and the moths? Or is he just making this up because he's trying to get the men as far away as possible from his new wife? So I wonder that.
I see. No, I completely believe the moth story because later down the line there was a dialogue that said he used to be such a happier guy before he got married. So like I think he was honest. I don't think he had anything malicious like that. Like keep his wife away. I think he just generally like we just to go here because environmentalists. We have sheepskin. We have these moths to protect. So it's just they're all about the environment. They always giving back. So. That's what I've learned from this. It's a very progressive tale,
Yeah. Okay, so and up to this point, by the way, we don't really have any inkling or hints at Steve's true nature. So this next scene is where things just start to go bananas. And I think they go bananas in a fantastic way. The men start to actually question Steve. Hey, we heard you got hitched. We heard you're married. And he goes, oh yeah, I got married. So they got all excited about talking about, who he's married to. And that's when Liz walks up. Liz walks to the doorway and she's wearing basically what the opening panel has, right? The super short. Yeah, she's got a little tank top on. She's very revealing in what she's wearing. And that's where we get Steve just flip out. He basically goes to her and says, you can't come here. You need to go away. I don't want these men staring at you. So you need to leave. You can never come back here. Then when she leaves, he starts yelling at the men. I never want you looking at her. I don't want you doing anything with her. So you leave her alone. And at that point, the workers start to gossip a little bit. And they start saying, basically, oh, Liz, she has a history of sucking cock is what they're saying, basically. And they start laughing.
For nickel.
And Steve flips out. He basically just starts attacking them and yelling at them. And he grabs one of the men. And I think he takes the end of a shovel, like a shovel handle or something, and shoves it into his mouth and says, is this what you say my wife does? Is this what you say my... And then basically all the other men have to talk Steve down from this just complete rage he has. And I bought it from this actor who played Steve. He's crazy.
I love it.
Once this part happened in the story, everything fell into place. I already liked the story.
Yeah.
I already liked where everything was going. Once this happened, everything fell into place. I get it. This guy's crazy. You can see it in his eyes. He's an absolute maniac, and he will stop at nothing to prevent anybody from looking at or touching his wife. So all the tension at this point is rattling on all cylinders. It was so crazy.
I agree. I enjoyed the introduction of his insanity, or I guess how crazy it was, because when he got I like that he walked up to her and then spoke to her about it and stuff like that. He didn't yell at her or anything like that. He's just very, very protective, and makes sense. The people he works with are very toxic masculine men, right? They don't care, right? They'll be rude just because they're guys. That first scene when we're introduced to the log house. He opens a can of beer, chugs half and burps and farts. These are men, they don't they don't it's the very typical rugged men. They don't care, they're working for the woods. And when his eyes lit up, like you said, and he just lost it. I enjoyed that delivery when I'm not too sure if it's a shovel. I thought it was more of I don't want to say meter stick because it did look metallic, but when we showed it into his mouth, he's like, "Oh, you're saying she does one of these?" It's like, "Oh wow," he really means it. It's a passion behind his violence, It's like, "Oh yeah, he is crazy."
Yeah,
I was sold too, like you said.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
It was a great introduction to his jealousy, his rage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right? Because if you think about it, we get introduced to him twice. The first time he points a gun at Banjo, and you get that huge swell in the music, that sudden huge crescendo in music that kind of comes out of nowhere. But his face is very calm. Basically says, you need to leave, or you need to leave her alone, right? So the music is you his rage that you can't see yet, and then by the time we finally get this scene, that's where he just goes full rage, and you can see it in his face, and he plays it so well. Oh, he does a great job.
He does. Yeah.
So back at the house, Liz doesn't know what just happened. She's like, "This is crazy. This is this kind of came out of nowhere." She's pacing back and forth, and we get another one of those voiceovers in a line that I thought was great. She says, "What is it about men When they want you the first time, they don't care what anyone thinks of you. But as soon as they figure you're theirs, they want you as pure as Madonna. So, yeah, I think when at least the way she sees it, when men first set their eyes on her, they don't care anything. They just want to be with her. They want to be with the woman. They don't care about anything. But then once they get their grasp on you, suddenly they want you to conform to what they want you to be. So you're allowed to be however you want to be, but then the moment that they have you, they want you to suddenly change. So I thought that was an interesting summary of men's desires from her perspective. That was pretty good. So Steve shows up, and they basically go back and forth and argue. And he says, I don't want you, around those men. I don't want them looking at you. I don't want anybody, even talking to you or nothing. And she says, what are you jealous? One of them is going to screw better than you. And that really set him off. He grabs her, and I thought he was going to hit her or something like that. I thought he was actually going to go after her, but the very next scene, they're just, going at it in bed. And she says, and she's got a completely bored look on her face, by the way. Mm-hmm. And she says, this ain't the first time a man ever screwed me because he was jealous. But this is the first time I ever hated it. I felt the boredom coming back. And I can tell you from experience, ain't nothing worse than being bored. Yeah, so this is really the setup for the rest of the episode, right? It did take a while to get here. It took a while to understand what this episode was going for, because it starts off with, a seemingly noble man coming to rescue a damsel in distress. It seemed to be kind of this, this nice marriage, but then within just a couple of scenes, you see this whole dynamic of, oh, he's crazy and she's miserable. So suddenly the whole narrative kind of shifts, and now you can kind of get a sense of the direction of this episode.
Like, I guess I always wanted to ask you this question when I was watching this episode was, why is there so much correlation of like the themes between like sex and violence and horror, horror movies or horror shows? So it's like, is it like the high intensity? Is it like the same thing as like a pleasure, like the release? Is that like what it is? Like, because you see that in a lot of horror films. And that got me wondering, and I read a random article about it. So I want to run it by you and see what you thought about the, why is that always introduced together?
Yeah, I always thought of them as being kind of coupled like that because of the target audience for horror movies. The target audience being, young teenage or early 20s men. And they want to see the violence. That's what the horror is all about. And since we have a bunch of young men in the seats, we might as well give them some sex scenes that they, everybody knows that, sex sells.
See.
And I think the sleaziness of a sex scene, of a gratuitous sex scene is much more palatable and passable in like a schlocky horror flick than it would be in, like a drama or a comedy or something like that. So yeah, the sex and violence does go hand in hand. I guess the action movies too, right? Action movies, you do get some.
Yeah.
Not as gratuitous as horror, though. I think you're right about that. You're right about pairing it up that way. They are coupled pretty well together. Yeah. I'll tell you this much. The original Halloween, John Carpenter, he did have sex in with his horror movie, and he put in a lot of that sex and drugs, not because he wanted to try to marry violence with sex. That wasn't his goal. What he said was he depicted the teens doing stuff like that just because that's what he imagined teens doing, experimenting with drugs and experimenting with sex. So depicting teens being teens while at the same time have this masked killer after them. And I think that merge kind of solidified itself when you start to get into like Friday the 13th and other horror movies like that really ran with that trope. So maybe it was an accident that the two kind of blended so closely together, but it was bound to happen one way or the other. I just think the target audience really likes that. They really like that coupling of the sex and the violence.
The way I took it as is maybe it's like the passion of killing, and there's the passion of, like romantic side. It's like maybe it's like the same kind of element that's like required to like be in that state, because like realistically, when it's sex, it's like a form of conqueror domination, right? It's like a form of like because you're sharing each other's bodies in a sense, and then like when you're killing, it's kind of the same thing, right? You're taking like a life in that way, but it's like I feel like killing is way more personal than sex, right? Realistically, because like you're
Oh,
taking a soul, you know what I mean? Like that person's gone, and so like it's the violence is just like the rewards are different, but I feel like the heightened sense of it is what is like very like similar. Like the
oh,
more thought about it, but the way this episode does is like it's very like one to one how like crazy mad he is and how like their passion and her lust, you know what I mean, like how it's like portrayed. I'm like, oh, that is very the art is conveyed very like nicely, and that really like I appreciate that kind of like art, I guess,
oh, that's
where
interesting.
it's not yeah, it's like not graceful because they're not they're trying to be like risky and like very sleazy like you said. So like they kind of were on the nose on on this one. So
That's interesting.
big ups for them.
And let's not forget that the killer plunges a phallic object into the body of his victims.
For real, he
Right?
did do
There's
that.
that too, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so we've established, right, he's crazy and she's miserable and bored. Okay. And also, since this whole confrontation, all the other workers, all the other men will not talk to her and they leave her completely alone. So she is bored and lonely. And that's when the new quote unquote fun arrives. So she's sitting at home and she gets a knock at the door, and it's a new lumberjack. He's young, very handsome. And when I say handsome, I mean, at first glance, you might think this was Keanu Reeves, like handsome, like Keanu Reeves in his Bill and Ted days, right? So this guy arrives and basically asks for work. And while Steve is talking to Ted about work, she's looking from back in the living room, and she basically says, "Looks like a cure for boredom just showed up at my doorstep." So she's locked onto her new target. So at this point, we really start going forward with this plot. Oh my gosh. And then we get the actual, what I call the interview, right? So Steve's basically talking to Ted like, hey, show me your credentials. Show me that you can actually chop wood. And, we get more chainsaws, by the way. Plenty of chainsaws in this scene as well. So Steve tries to give Ted a chainsaw to cut the log. And Ted says, no. I use the old fashioned way. He grabs an axe. He hops on top of the log and just starts wailing on this log from above to chop it in half. So he basically chops the entire tree in half using an axe. And the whole time this is happening, Liz is watching from behind a tree, and she just sees his sweatiness glistening in the sun. And she even, like, you see through the camera what she's staring at, and you see the camera go down his sweaty body all the way down to his crotch and just start zooming in. And then you see her face like biting her lip, and she can't contain herself. She's so interested in Ted. So yeah, she definitely has her mind made up. She is going to sleep with Ted if it's the last thing she does. And I think it comes pretty close to that. Anything you want to add about that particular scene?
Yeah, I think he actually did chop that, a portion of that log. Like he actually was able to split it. It looked like it was actually him. I don't think he got swapped out, but if he got swapped out for someone else, either way, then, that's a lot of work.
It was impressive. So, I thought they hired like a real logger, like a real competition log cutter.
Yeah, and said these are your lines.
So now that this praying mantis of a woman identified her new man, at this point she is absolutely dead set on getting him. So she invites him over to quote unquote move a box. So he shows up and goes, "Hey, Miss Dixon, I'm here. You said you have a box to move." And she goes, "What? Ted, what? I can't hear you. I'm in here." So he wanders around the house till he finally gets to the bathroom. She's in the shower and she goes, "Oh, there you are. Can you grab me the towel?" So he gets her the towel. She comes out and she says, "Can you dry my back for me?" And he's basically like, look, I shouldn't be here. I should go, right? This is inappropriate. And she goes, what's the matter? You don't want to dry my back? Would you rather dry my front? And then she basically just shows herself to him. And she goes, no, fine, then the back. And she turns around. So she is just going hard trying to get him. And he backs away. I think he does the right thing in this point. He says, no, this is too much. This is inappropriate. You're married. I got to go. So he leaves, but he drops his glove. And that might be the undoing of everything.
Right.
Because that definitely comes back. So what did you think of this so far?
Yeah, like I said, like her lust was really giving, and she's getting more and more lustful ever since she made the point that that she's bored, and then that she hates that the boredom's coming back. So at this point, yeah, she is trying to ravage, whatever's exciting, and Ted's the prize. So
yeah. One of my favorite parts about the scene is the fact that there was a box on the bed to be moved. Did you notice that?
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
So
no.
she actually set up a prop box to be moved. Like she wasn't lying. She really wanted a box to be moved. But
so
since
funny.
you're here, can you dry my back?
That's so good.
Next we are back. I don't know if we're at the same bar or a different bar, but we're at a bar and all the workers are there. And Ted's basically confiding in them, saying, look, I need to leave. Right. Miss Dixon is coming at me hard and I don't want to be involved with her because, right, she's married to my boss, and he's trying to do the right thing, basically. And I love how his coworkers are like playing the angel and the devil on his shoulders. One of them says, no, you're doing the right thing. You want to avoid her. It would be a mess if you got involved with her. And the other one's like, what are you, crazy? If she wants you, you go get her. Like, you go do you. Like, so I like how he's getting both sides of it from his coworkers. But they're interrupted by Steve. So Mr. Dixon finally makes it, and he basically calls them all out and says, who's sleeping with my wife? I know one of you is sleeping with my wife. I found a glove in the bathroom or in my bed. Everybody basically at this point stands up and covers for Ted, saying, we don't know what you're talking about. It must be your glove. It's not our glove. They're playing it off well, but Ted is still very paranoid, and he basically plans on leaving town. Did you have anything you wanted to add about this bar scene, by the way, before we go to the next scene? Because the next scene is close to the finale.
Yeah, I agree. I do enjoy this bar scene, especially when they were trying to help Ted out with his, problem at the moment. And how Steve was introduced, it's just so quick, so violent. Like he just grabbed I forget the team leader there, but he grabs his wrist and breaks like the mug after they just chugged their beer. I was like, oh, that's pretty like scary, realistically, that just happened. And yeah, like the whole confrontation, he's like, it was you, wasn't it? Who's like sleeping with my wife? And his eyes, like you can just see all the white. It's the way he plays, just like like deranged, just like over protective, like lunatic. Like I like it. It's so spot on. Like you can feel like the nervousness and tension that his employees were feeling. He's just like, yeah, because he's a violent guy. They know that now. So I like the build up so far. It's always amping it up.
Yeah, and his eyes are on full display here. He is just absolutely taking crazy to the next level. So the next scene, we have Ted. He's actually packing up. He's ready to leave. So he's back at his bunk and he's packing up his things. He's getting ready to leave. But at that moment, Liz arrives and she tries again to seduce him. And he says, no, I got to go. This isn't right. So he's trying to do the right thing. Ted is trying his hardest to do the right thing. And she will just not let him not say no. She blackmails him. She even says, if you don't sleep with me right now, then I'll tell my husband it was your glove. And not to mention, she's just throwing herself at him, ripping his clothes off, ripping her clothes off, laying on top of him. And eventually he can't take it anymore. And this is where we just basically get to another sex scene. They're going at it. They're ripping each other's clothes off. And he's basically telling her, I want you so bad. And you want me so bad. And they're getting ready to really go hog wild in this room. And that's where Steve shows up to crash the party. And this is where, to be honest with you, I kind of got surprised by this next part of the episode. When Steve shows up, Ted gets up and starts to go towards Steve to explain himself. And that's where Liz shouts, "He forced me. He made me." So that's where she lost all of her credibility with me. I liked her up to this point, and I understood her.
Oh, really?
Like I got her passion, and I understood everything she was going through because of what her husband put her through. So I can, as much as I didn't like the idea of this affair, I understood her. But at this point, this is where she also became the bad guy. Because you can clearly see the dynamic here. She's going to sit here and seduce these men. And then when she gets called out, she's going to play the victim. And that's awful. That's awful. So
yeah, that's pretty awful.
At this point, Steve just starts beating the crap out of Ted. And at one point, he grabs an axe and starts bashing him in the face with an axe and just completely... I thought he killed him. I thought basically that was going to be the last time we saw Ted. But the very next scene, we see Ted, and we find out he's still alive, but he's blinded. So he can no longer see. He lost his vision. And his coworkers come in, and they try to cheer him up. They bring him outside, and they give him, get this, Godden, imagine this. They give him a chainsaw. Another chainsaw in this damn episode. And they basically teach him how to use a chainsaw without looking. So he's basically cutting into these big, like giant tree trunks, basically cutting into these tree trunks, not being able to see and just kind of getting, understanding how it works.
Yeah. So that whole just twist of events, I was trying to look for a twist the whole entire time, and I'm not sure if you've ever seen, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and there's a big Leonardo DiCaprio meme that people make out of when he sees himself on TV and he points at himself and he gets so excited. That was me basically when she pretty much swapped sides when she's like, "Oh, he forced me, he made me." I was like, I knew it. I had a feeling she had to be in on something. I was like, there had to be something deranged about her. There's no way. And then that's what I thought. Yeah, the twist was happening. And then with him getting smacked and getting basically I thought he was killed too, like you said, because at the moment before Steve swung that last hit before it went fade to black, she yells in the back saying kill him. So I was like, oh yeah,
I didn't notice that part. So she did. Oh wow.
Yeah, she screamed it. So
I didn't notice that.
That's what that's why it's made me think more about the whole violence and sex, or lust, and that whole killing moment, for that heightened pleasure, or I don't know what it is. I mean, glad I don't have that kind of feeling. Realistically, I don't want to be on those kind of ends of a emotion. But yeah, it's just who knows why there is so much similarities, I guess. But yeah, she wanted to see, I guess, him basically kill someone for her, because when the introduction of that episode, right, he just pulls a gun and says, "Hey, don't bother." She said no. So maybe it's to the point where oh, he'll kill for me. I would like to see that kind of happen.
That's an interesting take on that one.
She's gonna chase that. Yeah,
that's what she wanted to begin with. She wanted to see somebody willing to kill for her. Ooh. Yeah, I didn't put those two together, and I didn't hear her say that. So wow, I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was very interesting.
So with everything set up, we have a blind man who's learning how to use a chainsaw. At that point, we get the finale. So the workers come in to basically tell Mr. Dixon, come on out. He's like, I don't want to go. So they hold him at knife point and they take him out. And then the very next scene, we see Ted using that chainsaw again, cutting through the log, and his coworkers are cheering him on. They're all excited. And he's kind of, you can see him building his confidence as he's kind of making his passes through this giant log. And that's where you start to see the blood, or red, start to splatter on all of their faces. So you don't know what's going on, but you definitely see there's blood splattering all over their faces. And then when he finally finishes cutting that log, that's where we get the reveal that they put Mr. Dixon, Steve, actually in the log. So he was cutting through Steve. And Ted turns around and says, hey, that was fun. You guys got another one? And that's where we get the reveal. The camera pans over, and sure enough, Liz is in the very next log over. So she's next. I thought it's kind of silly that they just put the little bandana around their mouth, and that's supposed to muffle their voices enough to where Steve can't hear it. I guess if there's a chainsaw going, you wouldn't be able to hear it very much anyway, but
it's pretty loud, yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't, like, there was, at some point they could have probably screamed. That's beside the point. The point is, he cut his old boss down, right, into several pieces. Well, that's the twist. I'll get to my thoughts on the twist towards the end when we actually do our wrap up. But I do have some thoughts about this twist that I want to get back to, but I'll save it. Is there anything about the scene you wanted to share that I missed that you wanted to bring up?
To tie back into, like, I didn't expect him to be alive, blind. So I had to check. I'm like, how much runtime is left? I was like, oh, about 3 minutes. I'm like, how are they gonna tie this all up? So yeah, when it went to that scene, it was like, oh, hey, Ted wants to show you a trick. It's like, oh, I don't care about this trick. It's like, that made me laugh instantly because, like, yeah, he doesn't. Why would he care about some stupid trick? He just wants the job done. And I had a different take when I first watched it, and then I kind of confirmed it with myself in, like, little bias confirmation. The second time, you and I watched it together was when he was because realistically he should already have his practice, and even if he's blind, he should know, like, like he's cutting through wood. But that moment when he felt the 2 logs and he cuts the first one, and you do see, like, that red mist come in, his face and his whole demeanor change. Because I'm pretty sure he realized that's blood, right? It got in his mouth and stuff. Like, a lot of people would know what blood tastes like realistically, just because, if you blood, you usually, like, try to suck it and stop the wound. But yeah, and it's getting wet. Like, he's a lumberjack. He's chopped wood. It's just like maybe a hazardous splinter or the sawdust. But the fact that there was something liquid, I mean, come on, like, I think at one point he put 2 and 2 together. You know what I mean?
You think he did figure out what was going on? Because that's actually my issue. Well, that's actually my issue with the twist, is whether or not he knew what was going on. I guess since you touched on it, I'll just go right to it, and then okay. I'll just go right to it. The twist is good. I like the gruesomeness of it. I like the horror aspect of it, and the practical effects looked really good too. So all that's great. What I didn't like about it though was, if he really is cutting through the wood as a blind man and he can't see what he's doing, is he really getting revenge? I felt like it wasn't his revenge. He's the one who deserved the revenge because he suffered the wrath of both of them, right? He was seduced by Liz and then punished by Steve. And then it's the co-workers who get the satisfaction in knowing what they're doing. It's not really Ted who gets to enjoy it as much. So that was really my issue with the twist, was it wasn't satisfying enough for me because Ted didn't know what was going on. But what you're saying is you think Ted knew because he felt the blood in his face and he probably got the idea that what was going on.
Well, like, it was his eyes and stuff, because when he was I want to say at this point he was, like, at the midway section, like his maybe 3rd cut, because at one point it felt like he stopped, right, because he's probably tearing to flesh or the bone, but then he kind of continues with it, and his facial expression, like, really showed that kind of strength he was pushing. He's like, yeah, I'm pushing through because he committed to it, and his eyes widen, and that's when his face was getting more bloodier, and yeah, everyone else was pretty much throwing a party, drinking while blood was splattering on them, which kind of showed, like, that are barbaric side, which I really liked. It was very dark and gruesome. I very like how the deaths was settled, and I'm pretty sure she was next. Like, there's no way, because they had him touch both logs. Like, I'm pretty sure she was gonna be cut up next.
Oh yeah, they had absolutely implied that she was in fact next. All right, so that brings us to the Crypt Keeper. He says, now that's what I call a sushi roll. I guess Liz was right. A good man is hard to find, especially after he's been chopped into so many pieces. Well, kiddies, I've got a little chopping to do myself. It's my producer's birthday. He's always wanted final cut, and that's exactly what he's getting. And he's got a producer tied down, and he takes the chainsaw and he starts chopping the producer up. Now, I think this is actually Joel Silver, one of the producers from the show. So that's kind of fun that he has a little cameo in this spot.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I like his death scene where he's like flopping like a fish. Like they're not like trying to make it seem like he's actually dying, but just the way he was doing is like, yeah, it's a pretty good take.
Oh, he's selling it. He's selling it hard. Yeah, they did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
It was fun. I wonder if it was really his birthday. I wonder if they just happened to, it happened to be his birthday while filming this episode, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you come in here and be part of it?" That's kind of fun to think about. How much fun they must have been having on the set to get the producer involved.
Let's see. I'm actually curious because what if his birthday is on August? Yeah, you're right. Maybe it was during filming because it says he's born on July 14th. So.
Oh yeah. So yeah, June, July. I don't know what the turnaround time is on these episodes, but could have really been his birthday. Okay, so final thoughts. Like I said, I like the whole episode. I like the internal monologue. I like that closeness, the intimacy with the main character. We haven't had that in a long time, so it's kind of fun having a character you're so close to kind of guide you through the story. I like how the story changes. You don't really know the characters until about halfway through. That's when you really start to get the dynamic of, okay, he's crazy and she's miserable in this relationship. And that's really where the trajectory takes off at that point. So I like all of that. That twist, I'm telling you, it's not very satisfying for me watching it because of the fact that it's not, I don't think it's for him. I don't think he gets what he deserves. Ted deserved a lot better than what he got. So I would have liked to see more from Ted. Yeah.
I honestly, I enjoy this episode a lot. It like you said, the monologue, it did give us a lot of like what she really felt and that intimacy, like you said, because it really gave us a more deeper look into like her psyche before the twist where she kind of was in on it. Because maybe she was also selling it for us as well, like, oh, she's just that like sexually active, and yeah, maybe she just did get bored, just something like we're just unfortunate, and maybe her husband is just a hardworking guy and just is overly protective and jealous. But like I liked all the chemistry of all the characters that were on this episode. I know Steve really sold it because he, like I said, he just had an explosive entrance each time he was introduced to a scene, and he just pretty much like stole the spotlight of, yeah, I mean, he was the main character. But the portrayal of like just sex and violence I thought was pretty good. Like I said, this was the first one where it wasn't classy, but it was still done right in its own way to portray like the theme of the whole episode. So it was dark for me. Like I think this is actually the darkest shocks and suspense episode I've seen. Like realistically, it got to me like, yeah, this is pretty brutal. So especially that whole like log scene where he chops both of them, everyone having a good time, getting back at their boss, and him just realizing it's blood, or just maybe he doesn't know what's happening, but it's just like everything's just so slow, and you're just like kind of like it's sinking deeper to you, like yeah, it's a slow death for both of them. They deserve it.
Yeah, he was still alive too, because when they finally revealed it was him in there, he was still alive, and he was actually spitting up blood through the handkerchief. So yeah, he was alive for a while.
It was well put. It's a very solid episode. Yeah.
Now this episode has, you marry somebody who turns out to be very possessive, obsessive, and abusive, and very scary. It made me think of, I don't know if you've watched this. Have you seen Fear with Mark Wahlberg?
I don't think so. I've seen the poster, but I've never seen the movie.
So yeah, he gets involved, so someone gets involved with Mark Wahlberg, and then he turns out to be just absolutely crazy, and then basically attacks them in their home. I have only watched the movie like just once or twice, but I watched it at a very young age, and it was very impressionable at the time. So the idea of, dating someone who turns out to be absolutely crazy, I don't know, just that idea stuck with me. So I've always thought of Fear in that regard. And then there's Ready or Not. Remember they play that weird that one person marries into the family, that one woman marries into a rich family, and they have a game where you have to hide in their house, and if they find you, they kill you.
I haven't seen that. I think
it's crazy. It's weird, but it feeds into the idea of marrying somebody who you don't quite know yet, and then it turns out to be that like they're super crazy. Get Out was also kind of something like that, and even to a lesser extent, like Meet the Fockers. Like you marry somebody and they're fine, they're okay, but their family's crazy. Like there's like just the whole idea
That's
of
true, yeah.
marrying into somebody or someone's family that turns out to be not quite what you expected or just flat out crazy. So kind of an interesting theme. Can you think of any others that do something like that?
Yeah, I actually had a couple. There's actually a mystery thriller called Gone Girl, where that's kind of what happened, and it's like she's not evil, but like she kind of tricks her husband, in that sense. Or even like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they didn't know that they were both bounty hunters that
Oh,
were
right.
meant to kill each other, right? Like they didn't know, like they married into pretty much a lethal, spouse. So that made me think of that as
Yeah.
well.
Or True Lies.
True Lies, yeah. I think there's a good amount to think about.
Yeah.
Like I think it's a fun theme. It's a fun trope. I feel like when done correctly.
All right. Well, let's get into scores. I like this episode a lot. It wasn't perfect for me, but it was really good. It had the camp. It had I felt like it had a good enough comedy. His acting, Steve's acting, was enough over the top to let you know that at least we're still having fun, even though he's crazy. It was dark. It had a lot going for it. I liked it a lot. I'm going to give it 4.6 sheepskins.
Sheepskins. All right. Back to the environment. Yeah. I'm glad to give it a 4.6. Yeah, I was trying my best to like hold how I felt about this episode because I really, really did like this episode. There was a lot of things that just went right that I felt like was just good for the theme. So I am actually gonna give this episode 5 rolled logs of Mr. What's his last name?
Mr. Dixon.
Mr. Dixon, yeah. The 5 rolled logs he had at the end of the episode. That is what I'm gonna give a whole 5 because, like I said, the whole theme of just like that violence and gruesomeness and just that like primal, like I don't know, it's just like it's just so like surreal and dark for me. When I watched it, I'm like I have to get up there because there was and I think this might be my first shock suspense that's a 5 because a lot of the shock suspense wasn't like for me, like it was just okay. But it did have a potential for that dark grittiness, and I'm glad this was the episode that showed it to me.
Now wait a minute though. Hold on, because Carry On Death, we both gave a 5 to, and that was the shock suspense.
Shock suspense. Okay, well there we go. Yeah, so that probably tracks because it does have that good violence and that grotesqueness. So,
yeah. Now, Godden, I'm a little more liberal with my 5s than you are. I think I've given out more 5s total. The last 5 you gave out was for Carry On Death. That was this season. Last season, we both gave a 5 to Television Terror. We both don't agree on this one for 2 5s, but we both agree this is a really good episode.
Yeah,
this is definitely a lot of fun episode.
Yeah.
All right. Now, with that, let's get ourselves into Horrorspondence. So we're still getting comments from our wonderful fans out there. Our wonderful listeners out there are still sending us plenty of comments, and I enjoy reading them. I won't have time to get to everybody's comment, but I'm going to do my best to get to at least some, if not most of them. So Anime Fan reaches out to us. They comment regarding The Trap. And they said, fun fact, the man that played the police chief is Strickland from the Back to the Future movies. I'm so glad for our comments for these types of little fun facts. These are fun facts. And it makes a lot of sense to me because Marty McFly, of course, is played by Michael J. Fox, and Michael J. Fox directed this episode. So it would make a lot of sense that he'd reach out to probably a good friend of his to come and help out with this, with the filming of this particular episode. He probably just came out for a day and just helped out. Remember, the police chief was the one who was like, don't you worry, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to figure this out. Yeah. Like, he was the guy who was really into trying to solve this mystery.
I see. That was him. Okay.
Yeah, we also heard from Latino Smoothie. He writes regarding Undertaking Pallor. He says the ending was probably changed to stay in budget, but in the comic story, the ending takes place in the cemetery. The kids are watching from a tree line as the undertaker and pharmacist do business and witness him stabbing the pharmacist to death. And he gives chase when they reveal their position, just to fall and crack his head open on a headstone. Then when they zoom out, it reveals that it was the father's headstone. So remember, he had killed that one of the kids' dads.
Yeah.
So I like that. I kind of like that ending better. That's kind of a good, twist of dark fate. I kind of like that.
I do like that too.
He goes on to say, because remember this, I think this particular episode we were talking about if they remade Tales from the Crypt, what they would do with the Crypt Keeper. Because remember, we were worried that they would go CGI. We were advocating for practical effects. So Latino Smoothie here comments, if they ever bring back Tales from the Crypt, I think they do all practical, similar to how they did the Creep Show series on Shudder. Now, I never watched the Creep Show series, so I'm not quite sure, but I assume the Crypt Keeper character is all practical. And if they did add special effects, they do stuff like add bugs crawling in and out of his flesh. That's kind of what I was thinking they would do, like have little bits of green makeup on the Crypt Keeper's face, so they can actually, insert little maggots and just kind of stuff going all over the place. So yeah, they might do something like that. I really hope they don't. I hope they just stick to completely practical, but
yeah. Look and hope.
We also got a comment from Joseph Hill. Joseph Hill comes back and he writes regarding Undertaking Pallor as well. He says, as far as the effects on the librarian, they probably didn't want to. Oh, because remember when they showed the librarian, I wasn't happy with the practical effects. And I had mentioned that I wish they used like a real woman and just gave her like prosthetics to make her look a little more gruesome. He says they probably didn't want to use a real woman or make it too realistic since the kids were present and interacting with the body. So that's a good point. Like you have these adolescent kids, actors, who would be, looking at and touching this woman. So that does make sense to me, actually. You probably wouldn't want it to be a real woman that the kids can kind of grab and touch, especially if it's going to be a nude woman. So I agree. I don't know why we didn't think of that. That's actually probably spot on. But Joseph Hill goes on to give the episode 3 skin mags out of 5. I love it. I love how we are continuing to use random things from the episode to score the episode. It's good. It puts a fire up my butt because sometimes you all out there pick better items or pick more clever items than I could have ever thought of. So it makes me think like, what can I use?
Right.
Joseph Hill also comments regarding bringing back the Crypt Keeper. If they ever bring back the Crypt Keeper, he says, unfortunately, using CGI would be a strong possibility. But I 100% agree that practical would be better. Now, listen to this. This gave me goosebumps the first time I read it. Listen to this. However, if I were producing the show, I would have the opening Crypt Keeper scene be all CGI with really fancy effects. This would at first disappoint and anger a lot of fans, but the twist would be at the end. The CGI Crypt Keeper would be doing the closing scene when suddenly it starts glitching and the scene fades out. Then the camera pans to a bunch of dead computer effects artists. Then the real Crypt Keeper puppet pops up and starts cackling and says, "I'm back, kiddies." Oh, I just got goosebumps again.
Really?
That's so good.
Creative.
Yeah, they need to do that. Good. Absolutely. Joseph Hill, you need to be a writer for the comeback because that's a fantastic opening. And it just gave me goosebumps reading it again.
That's really creative. That's fun. I would like to see that.
Mm-hmm. Now, by the way, the way we do our episodes, the way we record the episodes, we're like an episode ahead. So we're recording this right now with Undertaking Pallor having just came out. So we're kind of going through the comments of Undertaking Pallor. So since then, we've recorded Morning Mess, but it hasn't been released yet. That's why we're doing a lot of these comments based on Undertaking Pallor. So speaking of Undertaking Pallor, in that episode, at the very end, I asked our viewers to comment their favorite movie. Because remember, as the kids were walking out of the theater, you saw different movies, right? And I said, comment your favorite movie. So Iron Sabbath comes through and he says, Alien is my favorite movie. The Jamirian came through. He had a vote. He said Alien is his favorite movie. Mm-hmm. And you also said Alien was your favorite. So yeah, you have a few people who are thinking just like you. Daniel M came through and said #Predator. That's my boy right there.
That's a good one too.
That's it right there. I love Predator. Yeah. So yeah, Daniel, thank you for having my back on that one. I'm #Predator all the way as well. I like this involvement we're getting with our listeners and our viewers in this way. So I'm gonna do this. If you're watching to this point, okay, if you've made it to the end of this video, I want you to comment with how many chainsaws you think were featured in this episode. Right? We started counting them and then we lost count.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave it to you, listener, viewer there at home. Okay. How many chainsaws were in this episode? Comment with how many you think there were. And I want to get your guys' idea. We'll see if there's a consensus as to how many chainsaws were in this particular episode.
True.
All right. Any last things you want to say before we get to shout outs?
I will say, like, just because I am pro Alien does not mean I am anti Predator for these movies. You know, I do enjoy them both. But I do like an engagement, so I do look forward for these as much as Kenny does. So
yeah,
keep that up.
I'm glad you said that. Just because I'm pro Predator doesn't mean I'm anti Alien. So I enjoy both. I enjoy both of those movies. So absolutely,
they are good movies. They're great movies. Yeah.
All right. Another very important part of my of our podcast here is to give some shout outs. So I'm still listening to Creeps of the Crypt, Haddonfield Radio, Return, Revenge, Resurrection, and we just got a recent recommendation for the Midnight Rental. It's a Tales from the Crypt retrospective. So look for that on YouTube. I'm going to link all of the stuff down below. So if you'd like to go to the description section and you want to click on any one of their links to go check out what they have to offer, please do. A lot of great content out there. So go find it if you want it. And speaking of great content out there, there's the Cryptique podcast. There's us. So if you like what we have to offer here and you want more of us, my name is Kenny and I can be found at Too Bad About Kenny. That's TOO, Bad About Kenny, as well as the number 2 Bad About Kenny. I can be found on YouTube and Twitch, where I review movies and books, as well as play video games. Godden, where can you be found?
Me, apart from this podcast, they can find us at Cryptikers on our Twitter, and they can find me specifically streaming on Twitch at UAPP06. I'll be usually streaming a variety of video games, but at the moment I am not in a good schedule to fit that in, but if you ever catch me, I'll be live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thanks everybody for coming through. Thanks everybody for the comments. Keep them coming, and we'll keep our videos coming. Hey, speaking of which, if you're keeping up with what we're doing, by next week, you want to watch season 3, episode 12. Deadline is the name of the episode. So we'll see you next week. And until then, we here at the Cryptique Podcast wish you all sweet nightmares.
Well, how was that for a scream, boys and ghouls?